Welcome back to the Grateful Podcast. If anyone's watching right now, this is such a weird lighting setup. I'm outside and I just look one with the tree behind me. It's kind of beautiful. Um, Amazing. Sorry I haven't been posting as much. The content is coming out and a lot being planned, and it's going to start getting real in about a week. So I'm super excited to get back into interviews and stuff. This should be our last solo episode before it gets back to a normal schedule. Something I want to talk about is sacrifice. I've been asking myself this question a lot recently. How much am I willing to sacrifice? As humans, we are inherently bad at sacrifice. It's our natural inclination to want it all, to want everything we could get our hands on. In life, we're never able to obtain something without sacrificing for something else. Everything has a price. The fundamental principle of economics is scarcity. We have unlimited desires, but limited resources. In our case, our most limited resource is time. In my case, the 3-week trip I just came back from, and now the week-long trip I'm on, that costs 4 weeks of my time. 4 weeks of time with family. Well, now I'm having that time with family on this one, but 4 weeks of grinding out work I want to get done. I sacrifice 4 weeks worth of progress for 4 weeks of enjoyment and presence. Ideally, I could have them both simultaneously. However, this is impossible. Sacrifice must be made. Something must be given up. This, I believe, is the fundamental problem of most achievers. When can one justifiably enjoy the fruits of their labor? When have you done enough work to where you can take a week for yourself to enjoy what you've worked for? This question is one that keeps the people that you and I look up to as successful. It keeps them chasing the thing that very few people have, many of whom live simple lives, ones that we do not recognize or live up to. And this thing that they have is fulfillment. I was just recently listening to Alex Hormozi, one of the most successful men in the world, and he's brilliant. He was talking about this exact thing on Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson's podcast. He said that he used to look down upon the people that stopped the hustle once they reached their subjective enough. He thought that they were narrow-minded. He thought that they were holding themselves back from their true potential, what they could actually achieve. And later, very recently, and this was a big pivot for him, it surprised me to listen to, he said that he realized they weren't being soft. They just crossed the same finish line he is racing toward a little bit earlier. The finish line is satisfaction. Some people just take a longer road to it. Now, yes, the road that Alex has taken has had much more glory involved. He's made much more money than most people will ever make. He's had more impact than most people will ever have, and he's come closer to realizing his potential. But his road also contained bigger beasts, taller mountains, more haters, more doubters, and more pain. That road is not for everyone. A quote that I repeat so many times is, I think I heard it from Chris Williamson, you sacrifice what you want for what is supposed to get it. It's amazing that we hear that success is supposed to bring us happiness. So we sacrifice what happiness we already have in order to get success, which is supposed to bring us happiness. There's the fisherman's tale, where there's the fisherman on the beach, and he's just sitting there with the sunset, and the businessman comes along, and he's like, you could turn this into a whole empire. And that's a long-winded version. I realize that most of you that listen to this podcast have heard the fisherman's story from me before. And he's like, why? What would I get from that? And eventually the businessman says, you could sit on the beach and watch the sunset with your family. And he's like, what am I doing right now? Why would I trade the thing that I love for the thing that's supposed to get me something that I love. I could just take what I have right now and be content with that. Alex Hormozi, he's trying to get to the same point as someone who is satisfied with their $35K a year job. He's chasing what they have already achieved inside. What's better? There's no better road. If we're all chasing the same thing, there's no one road that's going to work for everybody. Because I just think that some people cannot feel content with minimal impact. And there's nothing wrong with being able to feel content with that. If anything, I just respect it. I'll just never understand. And that's what Alex said to his trainer. Or he promoted, when he owned gyms, he had a trainer, and he promoted him to manager. And he got a massive salary increase from 25 to 45K a year, which at that time was a huge amount of money for Alex. And after 2 months, he said, I want to be a trainer. He's like, you would lose 20K. He said, I guess I'll just be poor. And Alex said, I respect it, but I'll never understand. And I've had to get to that point with a lot of people where they're just satisfied with a simple life. I'll never be able to understand that, but I do respect the fact that it takes less for you to get to a point of satisfaction that I too chase. In many ways, not just in many ways, plain and simple, you are winning. Respect to you. Alex said that he regrets nothing, and I'm sure I would feel the same way in his position. I feel that Alex and I are very similar. My mind seems to mirror his, albeit 20 years less experienced. Alex, as I do, seems to struggle to take a break from the work he is progressing on to enjoy the accumulation of his previous progress. When I graduated high school, I wanted immediately to grind on my podcasts. I wanted to keep progressing, keep moving the needle. Instead, I took a road trip with my friend out west into nature with no social media. I've had innumerable moments of silence in this past month. Nothing in my hand, just staring at the sky or the landscape. Time to reflect on everything I've done and built. Oftentimes, complacency is the first thought that enters my mind, and I have to train myself to try to not think that way. But as soon as I've gotten back, I go back into that, wake up, make progress, and little moments are complacent. And I want to find this balance, but it's really hard to find this balance when you're not fully immersed in either presence or grind. And it's really hard for me to find some middle ground. It feels like there's a switch and it can only be flipped one way or the other. I've realized that this is the sacrifice many hard workers make. No matter their primary goals, I know that many of them still want some time at some point to enjoy what they've created. What they've done through their hard work, however, is make that enjoyment seem like not enough. We sacrifice everything to get what we want. Then when we get it, we want everything we sacrifice to get there. Alex Hormozi. This is where gratitude has played a huge role in my life. I've really, really, really been trying to sit with the idea I will never fulfill all my desires, especially with the huge amount of desires I have now. I have found that the more I consciously focus on what I do have than what could be lost, the less I subconsciously focus on what I don't have that could maybe be found. I don't know if you'll ever be able to fully embrace and accept the sacrifices you make. I don't know if I will. I haven't yet, and I'm really far from that. But I've been able to make these sacrifices hurt less. I can't have everything. You can't have everything. And the sooner we stop chasing everything and embrace our sacrifices, the sooner we'll have the thing that even the people we look up to are chasing. That fulfillment. The duality of gratitude and ambition that I talk about so often. The more I've dived into that in my own life, the more impossible it seems. But also, the more amazing it seems, the more perfect, if that word works. It just seems like that is the point that everything flows. And I don't know, I struggle with the word point because I don't believe it to be a stagnant thing. I don't believe it to be static. I believe this duality to be ever shifting and ever moving. And I don't know if I'll ever find it. Because as I said, I seem to be much more productive in whatever goal I'm chasing, whether that be inward or outward, when I'm fully focused in an inward or outward way. When I can have a full day where I'm like, I'm going to sit down and research different social media content and then create for the company I work for, that's when I make a huge shift. And that's when, or not shift, that's when I make a huge amount of progress. But when I try to meditate that morning or the afternoon or that night and do some inward work, that's when it feels like, oh, I just got this business idea. Let me write that down. Oh, I just messed up my meditation. So as I progress more in life, I'm wondering how this balance will continue to shift, or if I'm going to need to block out different months of the year for different things and hope I don't lose what I've gained during that month. Can I practice it all at once without losing it? Can I become inwardly incredibly peaceful while also becoming externally incredibly successful? That's one of my questions. And the reason I'm so focused on external success is for that fulfillment piece that I talked about with Alex. I have no need or no desire. Listen, no is a strong word. But I have minimal desire to flaunt my wealth. I have minimal desire to become rich in order to experience the material things in the world. Money is not a very large goal for me, obviously somewhat because I really enjoy traveling. And that's the first thing that comes to my mind, experience. I want to do these things that happen to get me rich because of the experience I get and because of the fulfillment I get during doing the thing. So, will I ever be able to balance that pursuit of greatness that just so drives me? And it's not driven by anyone's expectations of me, but is just driven by myself from inwardly and the inner peace that I crave. Are those ever going to coincide? And when they do, when that ambition and that gratitude that I have, when they come together, that's going to be the point where everything just makes sense. Even saying that, I'm very cautious because I do not like giving myself, when this will happen, type statements. Those are where I've caught myself very often in life. I really distrust that. For example, when someone says, well, when I go on that trip, that's when my mental health is gonna get right. Or when I quit my job, that's when I'll make everything right. All these different things. That never works. Just do it now, right? But this is not a thing I can do now. And it's something I'm working towards. It's not like a sudden change. I'm always working towards this goal of completely balancing the two, of gratitude and ambition, fitting them together into one. I'm always working on it. So that is my little disclaimer for myself hearing this. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening and tuning into this. This episode is brought to you by Open Project. That is the company that I now work for. It's a climbing brand built from within the community and make really cool shirts. So, yeah, and pants and shorts and chalk bags. And I'm a big rock climber, and hopefully I'm going to be getting my sports and adventure into my content more, because I think that could be a cool niche for me to get into. I want to be different, and I really want to be successful, as I've said, and it's not for anyone else's viewpoint on me. I don't really care. It's for myself. It feels like a game that I want to win, a sport, whatever. And I don't think the way I'm doing it right now seems to be working too well. I get that it's still young, but I've seen people my age be much more successful, get many more guests on than me. So I need to change some stuff. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting on that. That's why I've taken a little more of an action pause. I'm an action addict. I like to go, and get stuff done and learn through that. But I think I've taken a reflection, tried some reflective learning, and trying to see how I can gain more respect in this podcast community. I think respect is a really hard thing to come by when you're an 18-year-old high school graduate in a world of millionaires. But I'll get there. Watch it. All right. Stay grateful. Thank you all.